Right, everyone. I'm not sure when you'll listen to it, but right now it is 20 to 12 in the afternoon. Just to go through your prep for the next assignment. Let me share that and move this across there. Hopefully that's there right now and everyone can see it. Right, to very quickly look at the questions there. So, yeah, so the idea of egocentrism, the idea of, everything is about feathering your own nest, everything is about your own self-interest, everything is about making sure that everything goes well for you and only being concerned about your own needs and being concerned about essentially making sure that life is very good for you. The second one, ethnocentric, it's often related to culture almost in the sense that we worry about ourselves and we look after those individuals closest to us. So it would be yourself, your family, and I suppose to a limited extent, extended family, because again, extended family could take on different meanings. And then world centrism, where your concern is about the greater universe and a very spiritual thing, almost in terms of the approach. What we need to look at, and you need to do a little bit of extra research on that, there's plenty written on that, is to look at those three elements within the context of critical leadership, but in particular, the three perceived weaknesses of mainstream leadership. So if you look here, it is going to be Learning Unit 3, Theme 2. Learning Unit 3, Theme 2. Somebody will share the page number on the group. I know somebody will. So to just go through this very quickly. So when we look at the reason why critical leadership is so concerned about modern leadership, but also how theories around leadership have evolved. And it has to do with these three key elements. So essentialism is this idea that leadership is vested in one person, that it's this individual, this great leader type person. So again, we see so many examples of world leaders who believe that leadership starts and finishes with them. The kind of individuals that believe if they are absent, the world would collapse, or at least the organization or the country that they're involved in would collapse. So Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, very much focused around that. Cyril Ramaphosa, less so, because I think he is a consensus type person. But these are those individuals that believe they are there and without them, nothing will happen. So the first criticism is to question this syndrome of individuality. The notion that one person, and generally the great man theory, is so powerful that they can actually be the only one to make things happen. The second one, romanticism. It's often this notion that we privilege leaders over followers, that leaders are far more important than followers. It's the kind of, Moses taking us to the promised land. He is the leader that will take us to the promised land. And again, that we focus in our research often around doing research only on leadership, and we've neglected followership and the role of followership significantly in research. But the truth remains, without followers, there is no such thing as a leader. So we've looked now at this post-heroic leadership, this sort of waiting for a hero, the Shrek example with the knight on a horse rushing off to save the princess. The attitude is, I'm pretty sure Fiona would have saved herself. And then this notion that we see new forms of leadership. The first one, distributed leadership, and we spoke about how it took form within schools. Please excuse. It took form in schools, and we see now how there are different levels and layers and individuals who are considered leadership because of the complexities of a modern school. Shared leadership, again, very similar. Servant leadership, the kind of leader that essentially leads from behind, takes great satisfaction in the achievements of the followers, and it's less about the servant leader than it is about the followers. A wonderful, wonderful theory. And what I quite like is how when we see matrics being trained for prefects, that there is an element of servant leadership there. And collaborative leadership. We know that we have executive teams, we have senior management teams, simply because the world is so complex that we need groups of individuals who can track different elements, bring their own skills, bring their own competencies, bring their own unique views on the world to this particular team. And I think that the most important one is this narrowing of the power gap between leader and follower. The ideas of, and I live in KwaZulu-Natal, and I know that when you go to Nongoma still, which is rural Zululand, that it's this Bayeti and Kosi, and that you don't meet the eyes. I think that divide between leader and follower has to change, because again, the world is too complex for one person to rule. Right, and then the third one, guys, dualism. I think the first one is the idea of, in terms of traditional research at least, the dualist nature of leader versus follower. And we see in modern organizations, in particular in flat organizations with self-managed teams, where we see how you have leadership rotate between the different individuals in the team. So sometimes you the team leader, other times you the team player. And the idea behind that is that people have unique competencies and skills that they contribute. So again, it's this questioning these power asymmetries, but also the idea that you can't be a leader and a follower within a space of 2 weeks. And we need to really reconsider what followers are. The idea of knowledgeable agents. These are individuals that have been appointed because of their competency. We talk about knowledge workers, we talk about human capital, we talk about talent within an organization. And if you have talented knowledge workers around you, the worst thing you can do is to try and give instructions to them, because they'll resent it and they'll move on. And I think the truth is, in a modern organization, leaders are influenced as much as they influence. If you're surrounded by competent people, the worst thing you can do as a leader is to assume that you are the brightest in the room, which again is problematic in terms of, in particular, Cyril Ramaphosa. Mind you, I suppose in our instance, Cyril Ramaphosa is often the brightest in the room. I'm going to get recorded and be reported for that one. Okay, so that's the first question there. Guys, the second question is this element around the 4 components of authentic leadership. So we've spoken about authentic leadership, I hope we have, where this idea of to thine own self be true. So when we think of authentic leadership, it comes back to that notion of to thine self be true. So for me, authentic leaders are those kind of leaders where what you see is what you get. You don't have this kind of inconsistency in behavior with these kinds of leaders. They tend to be able to always be the same. You know what you're getting all the time. And you can see I'm busy talking while I'm trying to find the 4 key components, because I didn't take the slide to where it should be. You need to report me immediately, guys. Oh, come on. I suppose I can't even spell components. it's not as slick as I thought it would be. Okay, so there are the different components, the 4 components. So the first one, in terms of what makes a leader authentic, the idea of being true to yourself, the idea of what you see is what you get, is this internalized moral perspective. And when we look at your internalized moral perspective, it is this individual that's guided by their own morals, their own values. The one thing I would add in there, their own principles. You see, values change over time, but your principles are non-negotiable. So if I think of some of my principles that are non-negotiable, is you do not lift your hands to women. You value women in society. You are a gentleman at all costs. And I know that we recently attended a presentation on this new way the world operates, where apparently I'm not allowed to open car doors for women anymore. I'm not supposed to open doors because they can do it for themselves. So for me, it's very difficult to move past that. And yes, I know women can open car doors for themselves. And yes, I know women can open doors for themselves. But for me, I'm a gentleman first. The rest is unimportant. So apparently it's quite offensive when I open a door for women and step back for them to walk through. I would hope that the world, doesn't penalize me too much for being a gentleman. Guys, and then authentic leaders know what they stand for. They know what their morals and values are, and that kind of thing, what they stand for, those are your principles. Guys, and then also we see this higher level of moral development. These are individuals that are decent. They know what is important in terms of their own value system, and those value systems guide their behavior. They're not going to behave in a way that is inconsistent with their value system. The second one, self-awareness. Now, you'll remember when you used to do things around emotional intelligence, one of the key components in emotional intelligence is understanding, reading your own emotions, controlling those emotions. The same self-awareness is an important part of emotional intelligence as well. I think we know about ourselves, and it is where you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know what you stand for, you know what you value. There's a clear sense. Now, there's a lovely syndrome called Dunning-Kruger or Kruger-Dunning, depending on the text that you read. Now, Dunning-Kruger argues that this is an individual that will see deficiencies in other, but will not see the deficiencies in themselves. Jerry Springer, what am I saying? Ricky Gervais says that if you're dead, you don't know you're dead. And it's the same when you're dumb. You don't know you're dumb. Self-aware leaders know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, know what their skills are, know where they are deficient. Guys, and then relational transparency. I think here it's about building those things, trusting relationships. Again, very much aligned with emotional intelligence, where we have empathy and reading the emotions of others and behaving accordingly as a key element within your emotional intelligence. These are individuals that have deep trusting relationships, and we might have discussed in class how difficult it is to trust today. But for me, it's about this honesty and openness. It is integrity, it's consistency, it's being there for people when you're needed. Balanced processing, I love this notion. Balanced processing is the ability to absorb information and process that information and change your own point of view. One of the problems we see in the world is people have preconceived notions and assumptions about the world. When evidence contradicts those notions and assumptions, people will often ignore what the evidence is because their own belief system is so important. Balanced processing is this ability to find information, to use that information, and even change your own beliefs around the world. It is about a deeper understanding of the issue, but it also is this notion of allowing the information to challenge our own views. It's not that kind of I'm the know-all, I can do whatever I want because I am superior intelligence. Obviously, I'm all of those superior intelligence things. It's just a joke. Right, and that is it. Where is the assignment? Yeah, easy peasy. There should be no dramas in terms of that, guys. In terms of the presentation, I want a 10-minute presentation. Please remember this is a group assignment. I want a 10-minute presentation, PowerPoint voiceover, recorded and uploaded onto the WhatsApp group. So do your PowerPoint, do your voiceover, and then load the assignment onto the group. Insofar as evaluating each other, I prefer to not see those evaluations. If you've worked well together as a group, and remember this is a class on leadership, you should be able to manage the group yourself so that you don't have to evaluate each other and send me nonsense about other people on doing what they're doing. Everyone is an adult here. Pull your weight. So I prefer not to see those evaluations unless there is an issue in a group, then you evaluate each other. But if there's not an issue in a group, I do not want to see those evaluations because it's a load of nonsense. Please just remember, guys, these are my standards. I don't care what the other lecturers do. And I think you know that. Thank you very much if you have listened to this, and please have a good break, whatever happens beyond this. Cheers all.